And we get it rolling on the Krueger Show, 8:15 on the West Coast, 11:15 on the East Coast. You can look at it one of two ways. We're either 15 minutes late for our 8 o'clock start time, or we're 45 minutes early for our 9 o'clock start time on the West Coast. And we're brought to you by Pig It Up Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And today's live stream with the coach is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. Download the app below and make sure you use the promo code Niners, Niners, to get the first deposit matched up to $250. We'll go through in about 15-20 minutes or so, and we'll pick our daily fantasy lineup for the game tonight. That's right. It is game day, Coach.
It's game day, dog. It's game day.
A lot of dialogue. You and I have been rapping. There was Super Bowl Sunday. That was February 11th of last year.
Right.
And then March. And then the draft. The free agency in March. The draft in April. Mini camps in May. Dead month in June. Dead month in early July. Then they finally get it rolling for camp. And today, August the 10th, 2024, Niners return to the field. We are going to see an actual 49er football game tonight, and I'm fired up.
It's money time, dog. It's time to cash in. It is time to cash in. You got to be locked and loaded, and we got to be able to buy things off today, man. I am ready to go. It's the beginning of the season. As far as I'm concerned, real football is here. We're going to be able to get a chance to see these guys outside of controlled simulated camp. We're going to be able to see the pads clacking. All right. We're going to be able to see coaches getting their best plans out. We're going to be able to see what these guys look like on the sidelines as far as handling games. I'm excited. And dare I say, it's a bit of a change of pace from talking about contracts. We get to actually watch a game today. So I'm excited, Larry. We get a chance to actually throw away all of the innuendo, get rid of the narratives, trash the backdoor conversations, and really talk about what we see on tape. So I'm ready, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. And I all Niner fans are, because it's actual ball. It's real ball. Now, who's going to play? Who's not going to play? MF said, did some guys not travel? And then he asked, I heard Greg Pop on KMBR say that some guys won't make the trip. Well, if tonight's game against the Titans is anything like the last 4 or 5 days of camp, I would say expect 20 to 25 guys not to participate, because that's what we've seen at practice, Coach, recently, between veterans getting days off, guys holding in, guys holding out, guys with little nagging injuries. We're at that point now where the games are supposed to start, and yet it seems like everybody's got a little bit of a ding. Everybody's got a little bit of a malady of some kind. And I'll be interested to see who goes. I mean, like, if you're Shanahan, do you play Brock Purdy tonight? I think I don't. I think I'd rather play Dobbs and Allen and Mordecai and let those guys battle it out. What do you think, Coach?
I don't think Brock is Brock beyond that type of evaluation. I don't think he's there yet in his career. Brock didn't really have a preseason last year, if we remember correctly. He really didn't get going into maybe the last game of preseason before, and he only I think he was only out there for a series. Right now, this would be pretty much his second full-fledged preseason, as the number 3 guy. When he first got here, I'm sure he had a lot of reps and time on task, but I would like to see Brock be able to get a couple of good reps in, maybe sit him down very early, or, at the same time, that they already have a rollout plan where there's a lot of the business of football is happening during preseason. What do I mean by that? That means that they got to figure out what their depth looks like. They got to figure out who they're going to keep on the bottom half of their roster. And then we start worrying about getting the ones together and actually seeing what it looks like in real time, and maybe get a little bit of a dress rehearsal probably towards the third preseason game. So I don't necessarily think that Brock will be completely shut down, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play tonight, but he will get his time and his reps throughout all of preseason.
I agree with you from the standpoint of, I don't think Purdy, if we're just looking at it as, is Purdy at the point in his career where you would sit him? I agree with you. I would say no, he's got more to prove. But then I look at who's backing him up, and I think I would sit him just because I don't really have confidence that the 49ers can win games this year with Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs. Only slightly more enthusiastic about Tanner Mordecai. So I may sit out Brock Purdy, not because of anything he's done or accomplished, but just, because I don't want to lose my starting quarterback in this game, and I have a lot of evaluating to do. I mean, I will say this. I feel like I've evaluated enough in practice to say that Brock's your number one, Mordecai's your number two, Allen's your number three, Dobbs is probably somewhere else. That's what I've looked at on film or on the practice field. But we'll see. We'll see, because the games, it is football, and the games, some guys are bad practice players, and you have to account for that. And all the, like the preseason matters. Like, do the practices matter? Yeah. Do the preseason games matter? Yeah. Well, what matters more? I would say the practices matter, like, let's say 20, 25%. And the games are more like 70, 75%. Other people look at it the opposite and think that the practices mean more. But I just seen so many good practice players, Coach, that there's just guys that can do it in practice, that when the lights come on and the game starts, they just don't do it in the game, and vice versa, right? There's guys that just, that do it, absolutely do it in the game, and they're game time players. So to me, even though it's preseason, I put more credence in a preseason game than I do in a training camp practice. How do you gauge or how do you separate preseason versus, the actual preseason games? Because there will be evaluations made tonight, and there are going to be evaluations made around the league by every team this weekend.
Yeah, well, it's really the phase of camp that you're in, right? I would say the beginning of camp matters the most for the bottom half of the roster, and the later end of camp matters most for the top half of the roster. And then as far as preseason is concerned, I would say the beginning of preseason matters most for the beginning of the roster, the bottom half of the roster, and the latter part of preseason matters more for the top half of the roster. Right. So if you're going to be making a football team, you need to put yourself in a position where you are showing what your worth is fast and early. All right. You're going to be able to show worth, and that's going to be able to show itself in the first half of camp. By now, there's nobody on our roster that's going to just be this late blossomed guy that's going to come on in camp, and we're all going to say, well, what in the world happened to where'd this guy come from? You know what I mean? Like, we never saw this guy. No, if you're going to show worth, you got to show worth immediately. I mean, let's go case in point, Cody Schrader. What are some of the things that we noticed about Cody Schrader in camp? I was there for camp with you for the first padded week of practice. And what are some of the things we noticed, Larry? Cody Schrader, one of the first guys on the field all the time, right? Yeah. Showing worth, instinctive, always being near the top of every individual drill, like trying to make this team right away, right? So for him, this first preseason game is more of kind of like a commencement and a graduation, more of like putting the polishes on what would have been 3 weeks of good camp from you. Now we need to see if you can translate it to actual real football in an NFL simulated atmosphere. So these games are really big for our depth guys. These games are really big for our rookies. They're going to be able to show improve, to finally show what they can do with some real NFL reps under their belt against some other professionals. This is going to be good for our backup offensive linemen. Say we're going to be able to see a little bit more of T.Y. McGill try to make this team. Some of our older veterans that are on the bubble who need to show and prove that they could be good depth pieces. They're going to be able to get those reps. And then also, if you recognize, we're going to be able to stress the depth in preseason games, especially these early games, right? 60 minutes is 60 minutes in football, right? You got to be able to play it out. So we're going to be able to see a lot of, your Tur Gross-Matos, right? We're going to see a lot of Demetrius Flanagan fouls. We're going to see a lot of D Winners. We're going to see a lot of Jalen Graham, right? We're going to see a lot of Isaac Yadam. We're going to see some Rock Ya-Sin in there. We're going to see these guys be able to show like, all right, is this a flash in the pan? Are you a practice guy? Leaning to your point, are you just a practice guy that can really just understand the flow of an NFL camp? Because that's a thing, right? What do we know about Sam Darnold last year? One thing about Sam Darnold is that we didn't trust his ass in games, but as far as a camp perspective is concerned, he looked good. Came in, took any reps that were given to him, knew how to operate the offense, didn't necessarily stress himself or put himself in bad positions, just made himself efficient to the flow of an NFL camp and practice. He already had 5 of them before we got here. This is the misnomer that kills all of that. Let's see you do it in the game. Let's see you get it done against reps and versus a team that they're trying to get their own feet under the ground, right? With their team, right? So this is a good time for depth. And this is important for Niners fans because, quite frankly, that's what bit us, right? We let go of a lot of our depth on the defensive line. We let go of a lot of our depth. We let go of a lot of our depth offensively in some areas, and it came back and bit us in the season. So now is the time. Let's go back and clock it. I hate to do this to you, Larry, but Oakland, right? We saw that very first, not Oakland, but Las Vegas. We saw that very first preseason game last year, and they ran on us like a shit through a tin horn, right through us. Didn't have nothing, no type of resistance whatsoever. And what happened? We saw it in the joint practices with Las Vegas, and we talked about it during this time, almost, I would damn near say a year to the date. And I mentioned this. We talked about it and said, oh, well, how important is preseason? How important is preseason? And that shit transferred right into the most important parts of the season during that year when it mattered. So right now, we need to pay attention to depth. Are we fading?
Well, and let's just not forget that the old saying, it is what it is, has never been, a truer statement has never been uttered. I mean, It is what it is. So don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Don't sit there and try to insult my intelligence. If you don't stop the run, it doesn't matter if it's a preseason game, a regular season game, or the goddamn Super Bowl. If you didn't stop the run the last time you suited up, you don't stop the run. If you did stop the run the last time you suited up, you do stop the run. It's all, what have you done for me lately? And the film don't lie, So you're right, Coach. I mean, they did not stop the run. They got gashed in the preseason. I asked Shanahan literally the question going into the regular season. I said, Kyle, you guys have not stopped the run in the preseason. How concerned are you? And he said, well, you're right. We haven't stopped the run in the preseason. And if our run defense was solely based on what we did in the preseason, I'd be very concerned. But we have a track record here. We've been good against the run in the past. Blah, 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 blah.
And
that was his answer.
What else saved them? You know what else saved them? Their offense. They didn't have to worry about the run, right? So there were a lot of games.
New York,
there were a lot
Dallas.
of games where the run got engineered out of the game because of what we were doing offensively. So the defense never really had to sit there and deal with that cardinal sin. And it came back and bit us in the ass with teams where they start with the run first, right? And that's the thing. Cleveland, Detroit, Green Bay, right? Yeah. They start with the run. Baltimore, they start with the run first. So our thing is that, they commit to it. And our thing is that we are lucky due to what the NFL is now. We're not going to see a lot of teams that lead with the run first, right? They're just not going to do it. But when you get teams where they commit to this and this is what they need to do, you're in trouble. And then even worse, then you get teams where they actually have a quarterback where they don't even need to commit to the run. They just need to do it enough to keep us honest. What game am I talking about? Bengals, Cincinnati, right? Joe Mixon only ran for 82 yards on us, but that 82 felt like 150 because it was efficient. It was enough to keep us honest. And also it was enough for Joe Burrow to go for 19 completions on us that game.
Well, and don't forget that game. I mean, the theme in that game going in was the Bengals had a 13-day rest advantage, and man, it showed. And I'll say this, for the rest of my wagering life, I will never wager again on an NFL game without knowing each team's rest situation going into that game, because that is a major factor. And the league is getting less and less mindful of it, and they're selling out to the best ratings and the best matchups that create the most revenue, because these networks are paying ungodly sums of money for the rights, right? So they're saying, you know what? Yeah, we'll pay you ridiculous amounts of money for the rights, but you better prioritize getting us the best matchups instead of, rest and equality for all. And the NFL's like, yeah, you're right. Screw equality for all. Screw, resting our players. We're going to give you the best matchups by hook or by crook. And who pays? Teams like the Niners, who have 8 games this year where they have a rest disadvantage compared to their opponent. The 49ers have fewer rest days over the 4-month season than any other team in pro football. The Ravens by comparison, have 41 more days of rest over the 4-month season. So if the Niners and the Ravens somehow meet up in a rematch in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, from the rematch of Super Bowl 47, the Ravens will have gotten there with 41 more rest days over the 4-month season than the 49ers. Think about how much an NFL coach thinks about the rest advantage when you played on Monday and your opponent played on Sunday. And they talk about it all week. Well, yeah, but we had the short week, and we had the short week and the short week, and they had the rest advantage. That's 1 day of a rest advantage. We're talking about 13-day rest advantage for Niners Bengals, and the Bengals destroyed the 49ers. The 49ers were not even competitive in that game. So all I would say to anybody wagering on the NFL, check your rest for both teams going into that game. Absolutely do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. This one thing, and then also I think we're top 5 oldest teams in the NFL right now. So that's something else to pay attention to as well moving into it. But really, I'm interested in the depth. It's a long season. That's something else, right? We're talking about rest days. We're talking about age and attrition, but we also need to just talk about raw games. I don't think there's any NFL teams outside of maybe the Chiefs that have played as many games as we've played in a year span that we've had. I mean, we're clocking almost hit. If we go into the preseason, the postseason again, we're clocking almost like over 80 games in the past 3 years. That's a lot of wear and tear, man. That's a long season. So at some point, the levees are going to break, and they need to be able to replace and replenish those things with depth. I want to see how young, how snappy we look. There are times, Larry, we were out there. I mean, would you disagree? There were days where we weren't all talking to each other, because you know how it is during practice. It's too much going on to just have a whole conversation. But like we were all like peer reviewed, like cross comparing notes. Like, did practice feel flat to you today? Like practice.
I thought it felt flat all the entire time without Aiyuk.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't take a mercurial perimeter, all pro player off the field, whether that's a corner or a receiver. You got a premier corner, a premier receiver. You notice that guy. You notice that guy from you could scout it from a satellite. You could see that guy from a football field away, and he would stand out to you. When I used to go to Rockland to watch the Niners and Chargers do battle in the late 80s up there, or early 90s, you could tell, who was Jerry Rice and who was Junior Seau. I mean, you could see the difference in the way those guys moved from really, really far away. So you take them off the field, and suddenly the Niners and the Chargers wouldn't be as dynamic. And you take Aiyuk off the field, and suddenly the Niners are not as dynamic. So, yeah, I agree. I think there was kind of a general malaise or flatness to the 49ers practices this summer. And I think they miss Aiyuk. And let's get right into the Aiyuk thing a little bit here, Coach, before we get to our we'll do our better read here in just a second. But let's talk about Aiyuk for a second. He rejected a trade to the Browns. The Browns, according to reports, offered a 2nd-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and Amari Cooper for Aiyuk. And Aiyuk didn't want to play for the Browns. What would you thought of that return? Amari and a 2nd and a 5th, now that we know that was the Browns offer. Would you have taken the Browns offer?
No, it's too pick laden. Amari right now, the only thing that I care about outside of picks while trading in August is players, right? I want to be able to actually see what's going to be able to help me now, notwithstanding, picks matter when you're really close to the draft and it actually looks like you will be able to see what the tenor of the NFL is at the time, where if you can actually kind of fall inside of an area of the draft to get a player that you want. And that's if you got a player that you want. And that's if he's going to be able to help you right away, and that's a whole nother ball game. But in this, styles make fights, man. This is about losing Brandon Aiyuk. That's what this is about. This is about replacing Brandon Aiyuk. And Amari Cooper does not replace Brandon Aiyuk, in my opinion. So I wouldn't take that deal at all. The picks mean nothing to me. Because where we are in season, I'm not waiting. Yeah. We got to wait 9 months before those picks turn into something. I don't care about picks.
Well, I mean, I obviously we'd rather have them than not. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, come on. I mean, you're inside your Super Bowl window. You've been knocking on the freaking door for 5 freaking years. Sorry if I'm not super excited about your 2nd and 5th round pick in 2025 that you're getting for your all-pro receiver that you're weakening your team by trading. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the 49ers will not emerge from this Brandon Aiyuk trade, if he is indeed traded, as better than they were with him. They will be worse after this trade. There's almost no doubt. I don't know the specifics, so I can't say definitively. But based on what I've heard, the 49ers will be worse off if they trade Aiyuk for anything that has been rumored to be headed their way. Let's talk a little bit about where things are at. Now, Andrew Filipponi, the radio guy in Pittsburgh, from whatever, 93.7, I think is his radio station. He says that, I'll be vindicated in the end, when this is all said and done. He says, I think in the end, I'll be vindicated on this. I really believe that. He believes a Aiyuk to the Steelers trade is still going to happen. Diana Rossini, formerly of ESPN, reported that the Niners didn't like the Steelers' offers and wanted to turn the Steeler draft pick compensation, potentially, Coach, into a 3-team deal where they hunted down a 3rd team that they could spin those picks to for a veteran receiver.
We heard about this.
So that just tells you that, obviously they don't feel comfortable enough about Cowing and Pearsall to just move Aiyuk and not get a receiver. Now they have to get a receiver. The latest I heard was that the 49ers and Brandon he went on social media, he vented. He's like, it's not that difficult. There's 2 options. Pick one. Stop dropping reports. Pick an option. And it's basically, he's saying, hey, trade me to the Steelers or sign me. And those are your options. And the Niners, I think, are looking at this now and are going, it's August the 10th. The season's around the corner. And they're not in a rush to pull the trigger because they know what I just said is true, which is that they're not going to be a better team for having moved him. So it sounds like, Coach, they're now re-engaging with Aiyuk in some 11th hour discussion, trying to get it done. Shanahan went on the radio and said, hey, look, you can't get rid of a great player like Aiyuk and get better, which is
Right.
why you don't get rid of a great player like Aiyuk. And then the other part of it, so many people that I've heard talk about, well, the cap's about making choices. And if you stop framing it as, do you want Aiyuk or do you not want him? And start framing it in more real terms. Like, if you sign Aiyuk, you might not be able to sign Ward or Lenore or Banks a year from now. And I thought about that, and I decided I'd rather sign Aiyuk than Ward, Lenore, and Banks a year from now. If I threw that to you, if it really was indeed a trade, you can sign Aiyuk or you can sign Banks, Mooney, and Lenore next year. Which would you prefer?
Sign Aiyuk.
I would too.
Look, so let's level set. Let's level set. Okay. So the issue is not the money. The issue is the relationship. Okay. That's what this is about. Now that we know, the cat's out the bag, Niners' initial offer was in the realm of $24 million. Not only was it a $24 million deal, but they waited till after the draft. This is after they had told Brandon that they weren't going to try to shop him. This is after they told him that they weren't trying to reach out to anybody else. And this is after we sat here and clearly watched them try to draft his replacement in Ricky Pearsall in the first round, and then double down on it by picking up Cowing later in the draft. Okay. Then after all of that, they offered $24 million. Like, so we got to call it straight. That's what we know to be the truth. Now, whatever Brandon's been doing on social media and posturing, we could keep it 100. That doesn't help either. But at the same time, $24 million offer off of the 28 that he wanted, that he said that he originally has always wanted. It sounds like the Niners aren't being necessary. They're not being honest brokers. They need to get the deal done. I understand what $28 million signifies. Let's go ahead and take it. We know how to chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. If Brandon gets paid the 28, which he's deserved, Debo can't be here. We can't keep two receivers making that type of money on top of us going to pay Brock. Okay. So that's the that's the canary in the coal mine right now, is that we know that Debo has done a great job for this team. And coincidentally enough, he's in the best shape of his life. And all of a sudden, Debo is the model student. He's the perfect guy right now because he sees the writing on the wall as well. Brandon has put himself in a position where he's basically going to be the de facto number one receiver here once they pay him. And I feel as though that the Niners, Kyle, were trying to usurp that and try to soften that blow, maybe by giving Brandon the $24 million up front, waiting until after the draft when they definitely tried to get something done before they even had to embarrass themselves with that type of offer. But truthfully, this is all the Niners falling flat on their face, honestly. They waited too long. They could have had this deal done with 26, possibly 24, had they hopped on it right away last year or earlier into the year. But they tried to do what the Niners always do. They try to gather as many options as possible before they actually make an option. They did the same thing with Trey. Look at all of the stuff that they did with going to get a quarterback, staying at 12, trading up to 3 without even knowing who we want. And what was their what was their caveat? Why did you guys trade up to 3, moving heaven and earth to get all the way up there? Why did you want to go up there? Oh, well, we understood that we had the best options possible because we could have either went either way. We could have went with Trey. We could have went with Justin Fields. But all we wanted to do was be in the best position possible. While when the Niners are always trying to be in the best position possible, the clock is ticking. And guess what happens while they're trying to be in the best position possible? Jalen Waddle gets signed. Then Justin Jefferson gets signed. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown gets signed. And while they're trying to put themselves in, while they're trying to put all of their ducks in a row, contemporaneously, real things are happening. So they put themselves in this position. They need to pay him the $28 million. It's actually not the 30 that we've been sitting here being gaslit about the entire season. And sometimes you got to just understand that, you got to handle business down the road. They'll deal with the Deebo Samuel situation when they have to, because paying Brandon Aiyuk all but means that Deebo won't be here next year. But they got to do it.
It does, but at the same time, it's the cap, and you can make decisions that, if by chance, let's just say by chance, Aiyuk signed with the Niners, had the greatest season in the history of any wide receiver. Take whatever Jerry Rice's best year is, and Aiyuk has it this year. And let's just say, for the sake of this debate, that Deebo has an amazing season as well. Just an amazing season. They could get to next offseason and say, we're going to keep both these guys. Of course, they would have to be bloodletting on other spots of the roster.
We already bloodlet on the offensive line just to keep what we have now. What else?
But I'm just saying, you can always,
you see what I'm saying?
You can pivot, but there's going to be pain elsewhere. You know what I mean?
You got to pay Trent, Larry.
I know. We haven't even talked about Trent. The thing about Aiyuk is I think you can blame the Niners for not being proactive early. They did start their negotiations earlier, but once Aiyuk in February said, we want to wait till the end, then it's done, because it takes two sides to make a deal. And once his side was like, you know what, we're going to wait till after Jefferson and after all these guys sign, then the Niners were screwed at that point. They needed to be proactive before Aiyuk's camp made that proclamation, and unfortunately they didn't. And so now we're kind of waiting.
The Niners. Well, let me ask you this:
you can't make a deal independently of Aiyuk. You even if you wanted to.
Okay, so that plays, and I get that. But even if you're the Niners and Brandon is saying, you know what? No, I want to wait. I don't want. Let's say they are. Let's give him that. Let's say they wanted to do it early, and Brandon didn't want to. It takes two to tango. I get it.
And Brandon, why he did it? He's doing it for the most money. He wants
to see. He wants to see what the market actually is.
Yeah.
All right.
And he knows it's going up.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
it's like,
if this is what we know, if you're the Niners, what do you think he's going to say at 24? At 24, it's like, what are you trying to do? Drag the market? You're not even moving in the same direction of the market.
Well, you know what's even more bothersome to me?
The market like BA does. So why would they offer 24 after the draft?
And not only that, it's not just the 24. It's the 24 on top of, look at all of the factors that they're basically looking Brandon in the eye, and they're saying, you know what, even though you're a great player and we think you're a great player, you're not quite as great as these other players. And the thing about that, if you want to say he's not quite Justin Jefferson, you and I are in total agreement there. But it's when you get down to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, guys that Brandon clearly is right there.
Waddle.
He's right there with Jalen Waddle. He's right there with all these guys. Then you have to pay him. The reason I've sided with Brandon over the Niners in this particular situation is that Brandon, in my estimation, has things dragging down his numbers that don't impact him or his effort or his conditioning or anything that associated with him at all, that negatively affect his numbers. He's on a team that has a ton of weapons. That deflates his numbers. He's on a team that runs the ball the most of any team in football and throws it the least of any team in football. That has nothing to do with him. That deflates his numbers. And the number one reason I would pay Brandon Aiyuk, and this is this is something the Niners have control over. The Niners play the 28th fastest pace in the league. They play a very slow pace. They're 28th in pace out of 32 teams. That means there's a whole lot less plays called in the game week to week because of their slow pace. That's another factor. The third factor that's a drag on Brandon Aiyuk's numbers. So let's not have a really concrete discussion as far as his money, only talking about his numbers, when you have three elements that are right there that you have control over that suppress his numbers. Let's not deny that those are real factors. He would have better numbers if he was on a team that had fewer weapons. He would have better numbers if he was on a team that threw the ball more. He would have better numbers if he was on a team that played faster. All these things drag down his numbers, and he still has great numbers. So let's not have a numbers discussion and then shortchange this guy. It's not fair. I mean, it's blatantly unfair. I mean, it's like in the NBA. Some teams, you see it. You'll look at some teams, you'll be like, oh, they're averaging 118 points a game. Are they better than the team that scores 112? No, but they're playing at a faster pace. And because they're playing at a faster pace, they're scoring more points. And that means that the players on that team who have those stats, their numbers go up. And when you play a slow pace, those numbers go down. And that has nothing to do with Brandon. It wasn't like he voted, hey, I vote for a slow pace. No. So that, directly suppresses his numbers. And I think you have to take account of that or for that when it comes time to sign these contracts. I think out of his just a sense of fairness, you have to account for pace and you have to account for these other weapons. And I think if you put Brandon Aiyuk on a team that threw it more, had fewer weapons, and played a faster pace, he would have the numbers or better numbers than the guys that he is wanting to be paid similarly to. That's my point. And that's why I really believe, as much as I love that, as a Niner fan, I love Prague, being a tough negotiator. Why? Because that means that there's more good players on the team, because there's more room under the cap, because Prague grinding everybody. But as a sense of fairness, I think Aiyuk's a guy they really should pay. I mean, you can't play that slow a pace and then be like, your numbers are not quite as good. So what? Play a faster pace. My numbers will be better. Pay. And here's the other thing. And then I have a hard time with this coach. And I'm having the hardest time with this. And I know the Niners are too, and Niner fans are too. It's August 10th. It's time to play. The games start today. The regular season's a month away. Brandon Aiyuk, you want to win the Super Bowl. Brandon Aiyuk is going to help you win the Super Bowl. Getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk is going to hurt your chances of winning the Super Bowl. I don't think it needs to be analyzed too much beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this isn't even like a pro Niners, a pro Niners or like pro BA conversation. This isn't like a win-loss, right? There are definitely areas of this entire contract negotiation where it would have been prudent for the Niners to move on from BA if that's what they chose to do. And as a fan of the team, I would have not been mad at it, right? If they would have did it the right way. If they felt like, what we're offering this guy, what we're willing to offer, not Brandon, but what we're willing to offer this section of our team, this position, all right? This is what we have for it. Like, this is what we're due. They obviously have a modus operandi of how they want to move and where they think funds need to be allocated along the team, specifically on offensive with certain players. And if that's what you felt, if that's what you feel, then roll it out and do it. And then if you need to move on from the player, then at least do it in a way that it benefits us the best. But for where they are now, for how many windows of opportunities that they've missed, trying to posture as an organization that has the most leverage, they've lost leverage. And now they have to pay him. I don't see any trade. Honestly, this isn't about me wanting Brandon to win or sticking to the man. No, this is about being a pragmatist. This is about the logics of the situation right now. We as an organization have waited so long that the market for the asset that we have is nowhere near the compensation that we would garner for moving on from him, particularly for us to stay in our Super Bowl contention for a window to win. So they have to pay him. That's not because, it's the right thing to do. It's because it's the logical thing to do. They've lost time. They've lost leverage. They got to pay him. He's the best option that we have for now and in the future. And it's going to cost them a couple of million because they waited. They should have done this earlier. If they didn't want to pay him the money that they thought they did, they should have really went out, moved him, got a real receiver in the first round, not an apology for or a backup plan, all right, that can't even get on the field now, okay? And it would have looked a little bit better with a Donnie Mitchell or maybe Xavier Worthy in here or Brian Leggett, where they actually went out and got a guy and was able to double down and go get a Fatanu or a tackle or something that made sense for why we moved on from BA. But they didn't. They tried to make every opportunity.
They just hedged. They hedged and they hedged and they hedged and they hedged.
So now they're in a bad position. They got to pay him. Pay him the $28 million so we can get on with our season. Oh, and so you could pay your left tackle too. So like, come on.
We haven't gotten to Trent yet.
To do, man. Enough. Pay him.
And none of these trades. I mean, I don't care. I've read the Steeler trades. Oh, Dan Moore and James Daniels and a second and a third and maybe a Nick Herbig or maybe an Alex Hyde. I mean, none of these trades equal all pro 26-year-old wide receiver. I don't care
what they do to flip any of this. All I'm saying is that, come on, hey, Blood Moon, all you saw was one clip in practice of him getting blown off the ball. Like, stop. You know what I mean? Anybody, Xavier Worthy, and Donnie Mitchell, it could have been Leggett, anything, bro. Like, God,
I wanted Leggett.
Yeah, Leggett's awesome too. But all I'm saying is that don't cherry pick my point. I see you from the cheap seats. All I'm saying is that they cost themselves. They lost leverage in this situation. And there's nothing that, come on. There's nothing that the reason why the Steelers want to get this deal done is because they know whatever the deal is going to be, they come out better than us.
Right.
They know it. They're like, hey, whatever. You guys just let's get it done. Whatever you want to do. Because they know whatever they do, it's not going to compare to Brandon Aiyuk on your team. So
look at this. Invader 49er. Leggett's 3-cone was insufficient.
Like, come on, man.
Three-cone this. Three-cone this. DK Metcalf has a worse 3-cone than Tom Brady. You tell me DK Metcalf's not good?
Talking
DK
about
Metcalf's pretty good. Pretty good.
Put your doily away. 3-cone. It's gonna be a game today.
All right, we'll take a brief timeout here to tell you a little bit that this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get the first deposit matched up to $250. All right. Now we are going to pick a lineup here. So, Coach, we're going to pick a lineup here. So anybody you want, you can see their over-unders there. We're going to go Niners Titans for the game tonight. So this is for the game tonight. I don't even know. Garendo's not going to play. So let's get Garendo out of there. But what would you like to, what are we looking at here? We're looking at Jordan Mason, more or less than 19.5 rushing yards.
More.
I like more. Yeah, let's go more. All right, more on that one. All right, how about Ricky Pearsall, 22.5 receiving yards?
No.
No?
No.
You don't think they're going to try to make hey, let's make Pearsall look good, feed him the ball?
I don't even think Ricky Pearsall is playing. Like, at this stage of the game, man, have they taken the bubble wrap off of him?
I seriously.
Like,
he's got. So we'll go less. We'll go less. We'll go less than 22.5. Seriously, I mean, can you wear the blue jersey in the regular season? I wonder.
I think he's going to be the first one to wear the Guardian. Ricky Pearsall is going to be he's going to be the first player in NFL history to wear the Guardian. Yeah.
Josh Dobbs, 73.5 passing yards.
Over.
Okay, more. We'll go more than that. All right, should we go to a Titan? Who's a Titan that could do something tonight? How about
Somebody
Tajay?
somebody already wore the Guardian during the game. Who? Hold on. Is that real? Hold on.
I gotta see that. I gotta
see that too. Hold on.
So here we go. No, not Mason Rudolph. Let's go with Tajay Spears. Let's go Tajay Spears, 19.5 rushing yards. I'm going to say more rushing yards for Tajay Spears. We got to do one more. Let's do one more here. No, I don't want those guys. Let me go back to the Niners. Let's see.
It was an offensive lineman too. Jesus Christ. James Daniels. Isn't that the guy they thought was going to try to trade us?
That's a future Niner right there.
We were going to get the Guardian guy, James Daniels.
Is that it? There's no Schrader in there. Okay, let's go Conley. Let's go Chris Conley. 18.5 receiving yards for Chris Conley. More or less?
I would say more.
Okay, let's go more. All right, so there we go. We have it. Is that our entry? So let's do. Let's replace Dobbs with Conley. I don't feel good about Dobbs. Can we do that? All right, we'll do that. So Conley's in. So now we view our entry, and we have to decide how much we want to bet. Let's bet 20. Let's bet $20. Okay, so and we win 10 times our money if we win. Is that right? We win 180. With 20 to win 180. If we get 4 correct, we win 80. If we get 3 correct, we'll win a little bit less. Okay, so we have a 4-pick entry to win $180, and it's been initiated there at Better. So once again, the live stream sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download that app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners, NINERS, to get the first deposit matched up to $250. Thanks to Better for being the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Coach, couple other things tonight. First of all, Drake Jackson done for the year. And Robert Beal, to me, looks like the same player from a year ago. He didn't
flash. He didn't flash when I was there.
He's got great athleticism, but when he runs the loop, he gets way too wide. He doesn't fight off that inside shoulder and stay inside. And this is defensive end 4 and 5. These are not guys that aren't supposed to be on the team. Drake Jackson's supposed to make the team, and now he's out for the year. Robert Beal's supposed to make the team, and he's not looking like a ton, even though other people have said that, he looks athletic. He looks athletic. Don't get me wrong, but he still looks very, very raw. If the 49ers move Aiyuk, do they have to get a defensive end back, or do they have to start looking around the league for, last year was Taco Charlton. I mean, I just feel like the Niners, it's not like backup offensive linemen who may never play. If you have your 4th and 5th defensive tackle, play. Your 4th and 5th defensive end, play. The Niners play their D-line in a rotation.
Right.
How concerned are you that Drake Jackson's done for the year? How concerned are you with the depth at defensive end?
Well, defensive end is it's a labor of love right now. I mean, it's Nick Bosa. There's some good pieces. There's Nick Bosa. There's Yetur Gross-Matos. I think Yetur Gross-Matos is arguably one of the most pleasantly surprised free agents that we've picked up. Would you agree with that as far as just I don't want to put too much stock in him because he is a player that's been in the league for a number of years, hasn't gotten it going. But he should be at that point to be ready to contribute. I just don't know that I want to lean on him. Like for the Niners, think about it. You got Bosa and you got Leonard Floyd and you got Gross-Matos. And that's it. That is it. So, I mean, you get into the first quarter of the game and Bosa's got a quad pull and you're going the rest of the game
with Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos with Beal as the backup and nobody else. So I think they need help there badly.
Well, they have that kid Sam Aquanu. I've liked him. Number 91. Yes, he's done quite a good job. I mean, there's always Austin Bryant. Austin Bryant, just if he can finally put it together. I just want to be able to just talk about what they have on the roster so far. Alex Barrett is a guy that, he flashed at times. Yeah, practice squad guy.
They signed him Jonathan Garvin.
Yeah. I mean, outside of that, Larry, it's Nick Floyd and Gross-Matos and a bunch of guys.
Right. They badly need another defensive end.
If there is an injury, they're gonna have to go get one immediately. And that's another thing. It's like, why didn't we get any D linemen in the draft? Like, it was confusing.
When they took Ricky Pearsall, if you said to me, Krug, if you had that pick, what would you have done? I would have gone either Nick. I would have even gone Zach Frazier, the center from West Virginia.
Which did you see the way he looked yesterday?
No, I didn't. I missed the Steeler game. I was at the Giant baseball game.
My God,
how'd he look?
Amazing. Like,
he's great.
Throwing fucking guys all over. He made that shit look like college, man.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He's a great player. And I mean, that's who I am not one of these guys walking around saying,
fuck out
I'm not one of these guys going, pick the center. I usually don't care about the center, but this guy was so dominating when I watched him. But, to me, I would have gone for him, or I would have gone for Ruka Rororo. Just a gigantic, raw, fast defensive tackle who, 2 years from now is going to be just a whirling dervish of pass rush inside. I would have gone for, or like a Michael Hall. I would have gone for like one of those three guys, either a defensive interior lineman or an offensive interior lineman. But I would have gone with an interior lineman, and instead they went with the receiver. And now, that receiver is looks good when he's out there, but he's constantly not out there, and they haven't let him do one-on-ones. You wonder about his fragility and his just overall durability. And I just don't, what I questioned about Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing on draft day is what I would question today. Mm-hmm. Just durability, just how, look at the physical nature of Debo, look at the physical body of Aiyuk, and then tell me that Cowing and Pearsall can step in and do what those guys do. They don't look anything like those guys. They're giving up 30 pounds of muscle to those guys. So I don't know.
I mean, look, man, I just want to be able, maybe this is one of these things where let's be fair, right? Ricky Pearsall is kind of getting the bad end of the stick, right? Because it's almost
polished,
like him being on the team is almost kind of like signaling to something going wrong with the player that we all love, with Brandon. So he is kind of getting like the short end of the stick, and the fact that he's not playing right away is kind of like something that's really irritating all of us. It's like, dude, do something. It's like you just want to poke him with a stick. Like, move. Like, be a receiver. Run a route. But we had this with Nick Bosa. Nick had nagging injuries when we first got him, and it was, for a while, it was like, man, are we going to get another one of these high-priced, big defensive linemen that can't stay on the field? So his durability was something that was a little bit worrisome when we first got him. So I do want to give him like time to, get his feet under him, so he can actually get out there and show and prove. But I'll put it like this. This is not a flex. But how the hell can you be the Niners and say, well, we got to receive, we're going to go get a receiver, Brandon. We ain't going to pay you. And then find out that the receivers that you want are either way too expensive for what you want on your team, or you will have to change your entire offense. That's the thing that's funny. It's like the Niners reached out to see about Justin Jefferson. For what? For what? We throw the ball the least in the NFL. What are you talking about? For what? What do we need Justin Jefferson for? That's like going to
Well,
get a
I mean,
Lamborghini.
I think they figured, hey, if we're going to pay elite money, we might as well try to get an elite receiver.
We don't even got the stomach for all of that. Like, Kyle fell in love with Brock Purdy. Like, stop it. Like, stop acting like the biggest, fastest, best athletes is what we want. Can we stop this? Can we stop this? We get guys that fit roles here. It's about Kyle's scheme. It's not about its recipe over diet. Now, if you wanted a good diet, then you'd say, yeah, we want the biggest, fastest, and strongest guys, and we'll make it work because we're practitioners of football. We're professionals. It's on us to make it work. But that's not what we do. We go and get a guy and say, well, we already have a scheme. You come here and you're going to fit this predetermined role, and this is what you're here for. So
I'll tell you what I don't like is it seems like we're getting less. It's like we're taking lower and lower ceiling guys because we don't want to coach. It's like, oh, we don't want to draft Patrick Mahomes. We got to coach him up.
Yeah,
we don't want to draft Xavier Leggett. We got to coach him up. I want the polished guy. I want the guy who's. I want a guy who I don't have to coach at all. Well, you're the coach.
The best thing that happened for Brock as a 49er is before he even got here, he came developed. That's the best thing that could have happened for Brock.
Shanahan did not develop Brock Purdy.
Huh?
Shanahan got a very developed player in Brock Purdy. He's done very little to develop Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock would probably disagree with that and say, oh, Shanahan's offense and this and that. I mean, he's not going to badmouth his coach. But the reality is that Brock was pretty much a fully formed prospect before Shanahan, before he came to the Niners.
The best thing that happened with Brock here is not that he developed into the player that he was, is that he was already a fit. He was a fit for what Kyle already wants to do, and he got paced along the way with Brian Greasy. That's it. Like, Kyle, you found a guy. It's not like you fashioned anything. You didn't build it up. That's one of the few things why we love Brandon Aiyuk, because he is one of the few players on the offense that's homegrown, that actually got developed. You know what I'm saying? Like, he came with his skill set already, but the blocking, his approach to the game, his professionalism, we put that in Brandon. We have equity there.
And then Pearsall is another guy who's like the strength of Pearsall is he's super polished. He's ready to play right now. The downside is he doesn't have the same physical upside of Xavier Leggett long term, or probably a Donnie Mitchell, or probably a few other receivers that went after him. So, you know, it's like they keep looking for guys who they don't have to coach. Like, I don't want to have to coach these guys. You're the coach. That's your job. You coach. I don't want guys who need coaching. That's your job. You're the coach. So it's if you don't want guys who need coaching,
put this up by Soko, because that's an interesting comment.
What time?
Soko, where he says, Larry, how much coaching up does a head coach?
What time did you do it at?
12:12 p.m.
12:12. Or okay, hold on a second.
Larry, how much coaching up does a head coach really do in the NFL? I would think it's not much. That's not true, man.
There it is. Soko, how much coaching up does a head coach do in the NFL? I would think it's not much. Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, it really depends. Every coach is different, right? Some coaches are intricately involved. Some coaches are more like CEOs. But I would say your coaching staff is absolutely, very involved with coaching up the players. There are players that are more polished than others. I just think that, it's like, I would rather take the rawest, best, highest end potential player and have that and get that upside than take somebody who's ready to roll right now, but has limited upside. And that's kind of why I didn't love the Pearsall, is that Leggett is the highly skilled, big, strong, fast guy that's raw and is going to need to be coached up and need a little time and probably isn't going to make an impact as a rookie. But by year 3 could be really scary. Pearsall's the guy that is very polished, should make an impact as a rookie, but upside.
You got what you got.
Yeah, I mean, he may not have the same upside. He may not have the same growth potential in year 2, 3, and 4. And I understand there's a right time for both, right? But if you're constantly drafting players that have limited upside, then there's limited upside. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's as simple as that. I mean, there's not a lot of area to get better. If you draft raw players that are all about upside, some of them may never realize that potential, and you could draft some busts. So I don't think I think Pearsall's bust free. He's going to be an impact. He's going to make an impact and contribute right away. I just am concerned about, is he a limited upside guy compared to the other receivers that they could have taken? And I really believe he is. I really do. Let's hit some super chats.
He has a ceiling.
I mean, there's no question. I mean, he's got a physical ceiling, and you can see it. David E says Aiyuk turned down $32 million. It's time to send him home. Let him ponder his future and tell him to come back in week 8, ready to play. See, the only thing, David, there's no room in these negotiations to get mad. And that, you just kind of sounded mad there. Brad Jones says, Krug, my main man, 1:30 a.m. down here in Australia, and I'm already counting down the hours for the game. Brad, have a Foster's and get ready for the Niners. Watching in Australia, Coach. You ever been to Australia?
No, I've never been.
I would love to go. I'd love to go to Australia. Go to Sydney and go check out Sydney. Would be incredible. Blood Moon says the leak of what the Browns were willing to offer, that was a clear message to Pittsburgh. Niners will not trade for anything less. The shitstorm if they did. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If the 49ers trade, I mean, John Lynch is smart. I mean, John Lynch is not a dumb guy. Went to Stanford. Pretty smart guy. He knows that he is going to wear this in the biggest way if he makes a disappointing trade for Aiyuk. Now, if he trades Aiyuk and it's an amazing trade, he trades him Aiyuk and a 3rd-round pick to the Bengals for Jamar Chase. Well, guess what? People will be like, John Lynch is a genius. But if he trades him for, just an okay, return, there'll be a lot of critical people. And if he trades him for Kendrick Bourne or, 1 year of Amari Cooper, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, John Lynch has got to go. And I think he's smart enough to know that. So I think he's in no rush to make a bad trade here, Coach. I think the Niners, according to what I read in the last 24 hours, the Niners want a great player from Pittsburgh that Pittsburgh is not willing to move. The question I would have to you is, who do you think that great player could be?
I mean,
that was the report. They wanted a great player.
There's only 2 players like that Pittsburgh would have that would be TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick.
I was thinking maybe George Pickens. Like maybe they wanted a George Pickens. I personally don't think Pickens is a great player, but he's a very intriguing prospect.
You mean
I could
George
see where somebody
Pickens
would call him great.
His viral highlight is him not refusing to block. Like, come on, man. Like
But he does have some pretty good catches. I mean, he's a talented guy. I mean, you and I both know George Pickens is talented. He's not the blocker Aiyuk is, for sure. In fact, as you stated there, he might be on the other end of the spectrum. The other guy that I heard thrown out as a great player the Niners wanted was Freiermuth, the tight end. What do you think of Freiermuth? To me, that wouldn't have.
That's something.
It's underwhelming.
But the only reason why Freiermuth is a choice is because we're picking. It's because we got to make a choice. Right. If you asked off the top of your head, give us the best players for our best players, nobody is bringing up Freiermuth like immediately. That's not total recall. So that's what I mean by once you start getting into like the Freiermuth conversations, we're reaching. We're reaching now. No.
I mean, what is fair? I mean, fair value would be like
a starter.
Minkah, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
A major contributing starter on your team, just the way ours is.
Who's not old.
Your trade would be.
Yeah, who's not old.
Who's not, who's 26.
Right. So I don't see Pittsburgh as having anybody, to be honest.
No, they don't have anybody.
I would love.
Look, that's why it's like the house always wins, man. That's why casinos make the money they do. It's like, look, deal with us as much as you want. You want to deal with us in February? You want to deal with us in June? You want to do it till August? Whatever you guys want to come up with, whatever we got, you can have. Just give us Brandon Aiyuk. They know that they are getting the best side of this deal, no matter how it shakes out. You want picks? Take picks. That's like asking for magic beans. Here, you want them? Take them.
Do we need to walk down memory lane on the Steelers draft history to tell you what they've done with their last 5 or 6 number 1 picks? I mean, I could do it for you right here without even looking at a list. Chase Claypool, Kenny Pickett, the tight end, the Mongo tight end, Darnell Washington was a pretty high pick. He wasn't a first round pick, but he was a pretty high pick.
They don't care about them picks over there.
I mean, Najee was their first round pick. I mean, Broderick Jones was their first round pick. It's not like they're killing it. I mean, they're not killing it with their first round picks.
We don't know how to do it anyway. Maybe you could do something with these picks. Just give us Brandon.
Right.
Just give us Brandon Aiyuk.
Seriously. And after watching what Aiyuk did to them in week 1 last year at Heinz Field, they're like, get us. And they're dreaming the big dream. They had Swan and Stallworth. They now have Pickens and Van Jefferson. They're looking for their stalwart.
Miami got rid of Minka foolishly. Pittsburgh said, "Oh, we'll take him.
Yeah,
we'll take him." Turned him into a household name right away. Paid him, sat him down. We'll put guys around you. We'll make you a priority here. They're going to do the same thing with Brandon.
The other thing that they said was that maybe the Niners would want picks from Pittsburgh and then try to spin those picks to a third team for a receiver, which just speaks to all the more reason why they shouldn't move Aiyuk. But is there a receiver, whether it be Cortland Sutton or Devontae or Higgins or anybody really? I mean, I threw out Jordan Addison because there's talk in Minnesota they may trade him because of his DUIs. Is there a receiver out there that you would be interested in trying to get picks from Pittsburgh and flip those picks for that receiver?
Jordan Addison is a complete I love Jordan Addison. I think Jordan Addison's like one of the best up-and-coming receivers in the league, man.
I mean, his only problem is he keeps going 140 miles an hour.
Yeah, he just got a lead foot.
Right.
We got to focus on one of them self-driving cars that David Lombardi's always in. We'll be all right. Hey, shots fired, man. Shots fired. I kid. Just joshing.
All right, everybody, come on now.
Let's get back.
Bring it on back.
All right. So reeling it in, but so I mean the Devontae deal, he's just too old, Larry.
32. That's on the wrong side. Come on, man. 26 to 32, that is your career. Don't trade for a guy who's already had a career. Trade for a guy like Addison who's got a career coming up.
Right. Exactly. So that's one deal. T. Higgins, I think that would just be a redundant situation. We're going to get a guy who arguably is a number 1 on probably 2/3 of the league. He's a number 1 receiver, but he just plays behind Jamar Chase. Right. And T. Higgins, and bringing him over, he would want the money that BA is presumably being offered right now. And he's not coming here to just be a practitioner of the offense and kind of sit back and fight for reps and watch Debo get 3-yard now rights and screens where he has to run the entire route tree and not even be deemed as the number 1 guy for it. He's not going to come here to do that. He actually wants to get under the thumb of an organization so he can grow and create on his own. So I don't think that we'd be a likely candidate for T. Higgins, but I like Cortland Sutton.
Very big receiver.
He's a bigger, as fast. He's not faster than BA, but he's a 4.5 guy, but he plays at 4.5. He's gone to he was with a run first offense where he was used as the full number one, but he wasn't garnered as the number one, but he ran the full route tree. He's a deep threat. He's used to being able to get balls at like a pedestrian clip, rather, because Denver doesn't really air the ball out either. And he's always had to deal with like this whole like carousel of coaching now, but then quarterbacks. I think that Courtland Sutton coming over to the 49ers, I wouldn't be mad at that deal. He would actually, I think that he'd come here and find a better culture that he's never had before. Nothing changes negotiation conversations like winning. He's never been on a winning team before, never been around this type of cachet or been on the stage of the NFL. And also, I think that for a lot of what BA is asked to do in this offense, I think that Courtland Sutton could do that. On top of the fact is the age factor is not that bad. BA's 26 years old. Courtland is only 28, right? So we still get him in his youth. It's not like we get a guy who's staring down 30. So I wouldn't, if it had to happen, and there was a receiver that we brought in, I wouldn't be mad at Courtland Sutton. A bigger athlete, fast, can still move, knows the whole route tree. It would be a complete culture change for him. So he'd be happy to be here, and we could probably get something done on the money side. And his youth. He's not that old.
Yeah. No, I Courtland Sutton's intriguing. Did you see what Amari Cooper said, by the way, on Instagram?
No, what'd he say?
He's like, that would be all right with me. He's like, because he was rumored. Yeah. He's like rumored to be headed to the Niners for Aiyuk with a second and a fifth, and he's like, that would have been cool with me. Amari Cooper for 1 year or so would have been fine. I just don't like the fact that once again, 26 for a 30-year-old guy, and at the end of the day, I mean, do you have a better chance to win the Super Bowl? I mean, I really believe this, by the way. I really believe that what you see in the NFL, like free agency, has been good for the players. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And maybe good for the fans, but has it been good for the teams? And I say that because I really believe, I read an article at the dawn of free agency in the mid-90s about how there was a couple different NFL personnel people that made the prediction that they didn't know what free agency would bring to the NFL, but that what they felt like it would bring is that the player that would leave your team would leave a bigger void than the guy who you signed away from another team would fill. So in other words, if you lose Brandon Aiyuk, he leaves a gaping hole. And even if you went out and signed in a new receiver, he doesn't necessarily, or you signed in a new player like a Javon Hargrave, he's not going to give you the impact he would if he had been your homegrown player, because it's going to take a while for him to learn your system and your personality and so on. And I think we've seen that in free agency. The guy that leaves a bigger hole. The free agent that you add doesn't quite deliver the way he did for his previous team. And I just get the feeling with Aiyuk, that's what they're staring at. If they retain Aiyuk, I think they're worlds better than if they kiss him off and go get somebody else to replace him. Whether that's Ricky Pearsall or a trade, I just think that if they really want to be the best they can be this year, they really want to put their best foot forward, they really want to try to get that 6 Lombardi, I think they gotta re-sign Aiyuk and get down the road. And if I could get a Jordan Addison away from Minnesota by trading a 2025 draft choice, I'd try to add him too, because what the heck, why not? I mean, you need as many. I believe you win with the guys who touch the ball. And I just really think if I could improve, if I could hoard lots of great players who touch the football, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, quarterbacks, I feel like I feel like I'd be ahead. We're coming down the home stretch here on the extravaganza. I'm going to ask Coach one more question, but we'll get hit a couple more of these supers. Ryan says this is Parag's fault. Every year we have contract drama, and all of our star players say the same thing. Parag is terrible. If he's negotiating this way because he lost the Bosa deal, that's inexcusable. Ricky Williams, Frazier looked amazing. Typical. What a miss, fellas. Oh my God, I hate to hear that.
He looked.
I was super high on him. Yeah, oh my God,
he looked good, man.
He is good. I mean, he has the wrestling background. He dominates.
He looked like a 10-year pro. He didn't even look like a rookie.
Oh, I know. He's a plug and play 10-year pro type guy. Tommy Huxley, been saying since day one, Slick Rick ain't it. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think he's Aiyuk. I'll say that. Ricky Williams says if flag football was in the Olympics this year, who's your guys' starters both sides of the ball? Flag football? I'll take Tyreek Hill.
There you go. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Give me I want Kyle Pitts at tight end, and because it's flag, so we need guys.
I want speed. I want like I'll take A-Chan. I'll take A-Chain from the Dolphins. He's a burner. I'll take Tyreek. Maybe I'll just throw in Waddle to get all the Dolphins.
Yeah, and then I put Jamar and Justin Jefferson on the outside. Yeah, and probably put Cooper Kupp at slot.
Exactly.
Go put Tariq at slot, and then let's go to work.
Tell some speedster wide receiver, hey, you're going to play tight end. Maybe DK Metcalf at tight end. Ricky Williams says if flag football was in the Olympics, oh, we got that. Okay, hey, good chats for everybody. Coach, last one. We get Niners Titans tonight, and the Niners, by the way, announced that they have released tight end Logan Thomas. So Mason Pine. First of all, Coach, you were in camp. What did you think of my guy Pine? He's
good. He's smooth. He's a smooth athlete. He's a big body. He's got a good frame. Very smooth athlete. I can't really say I've seen much from him in the run game. It's hard to really see what he's done in the run game with blocking. Right. But when he gets out in the open, he runs. He doesn't look 6'8" when he moves too. He's a very fluid athlete. Good soft hands. All right. And I don't know. I can't say much on him on blocking. I will say Logan Thomas, I didn't even know he was on the field at times. So I'm glad that it seems as though that our tight end room is like getting rid of guys that shouldn't have been here in the first place. Like I'm hoping to get a Devondre Campbell cut, but something needs to happen because D Winters is turning on.
D Winters looks good. I think Jalen Graham looks good.
Jalen Graham looks amazing.
Yeah, that's the last question I have for you tonight. The Niners Titans preseason game number 1. We know we're not going to see Aiyuk. We know we're not going to see Trent Williams. And some people were saying maybe the Niners ought to consider trading Trent Williams. I don't know. I don't know what the heck's going on with Trent Williams. Hopefully they'll figure out their finances and get a few more dollars his way. But give me somebody that you're really looking for tonight in the preseason opener against the Titans.
Malik Mustafa, he showed and he flashed earlier on in OTAs, but when the pads came on, he kind of disappeared. I'm really trying to see what Malik Mustafa, if the physicality translates onto the field, because I need to see it. I haven't seen it in practice since the pads come on.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go with to me, I'm looking for the runners and the guys who stop the run. D Winters, Jalen Graham, Tatum Bethune on defense. Bethune this week has just had all kinds of big hits, and Jalen Graham's gotten into a couple fights. I think he's really ready to get out there and throw the body around a little bit. And then offensively, Jordan Mason and Cody Schrader, and a little bit of Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn is not old. He was with Tampa. I liked him at Vandy. He's only 27. He was in New England last year. He's 5'10". He's 215 pounds. Him and Breida looked pretty good this week at practice running the ball. So I'm eager to see the running backs. Keyshawn Vaughn, Breida, see what he's got left. Cody Schrader. We're not going to see Garendo, but Cody Schrader, Jordan Mason, Matt Breida, Keyshawn Vaughn, and then those linebackers. And then late in the game, little Evan Anderson and Shaquille Brown. I want to see those big defensive tackles, see if they can get out there and move. Coach, what do you got cooking the rest of your Saturday?
We got a call-in show at 3:00 Eastern, so that's 12 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to get in here. I want to hear what the fans have to say about the Titans game, about what they've heard about camp so far, how they feel about the BA situation. It's time for us to hear from the fans, so we're going to do our weekly call-in show at 3, and I'm going to do a post-game after the preseason game, and we're going to do call-in post-game. So fans sit up here and watch us talk the entire time, but I know that a lot of people want to get their point of view out about what they've seen, and there's going to be a lot to talk about after us seeing the boys for the first time. So we're going to do 2 shows. Going to do the call-in show at 3. We're going to do the post-game today after the game.
Cool. Everybody join the coach on his big day today.
Oh, also, channel name has changed. The Coaches Huddle.
No, for some reason I don't have
The names
name.
don't come up anymore.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know, bro.
Is there something I can put the channel name up there? Because I hit a button the other day and the channel names popped up.
You hit a button the other day. Come on, dude.
I swear.
That doesn't sound scientific. Not in front of the fans.
We'll figure it out. Coach, give people the name of the channel. So even though we don't have it written on the screen.
That's it. The Coaches Huddle. TheCoachesHuddle. The Coaches Huddle.
The Coaches
Huddle.
Huddle.
Yeah. Thank you. Good. Bang Bang was too creative. It was a little too much. But the Coaches Huddle, come through, guys. We got a call-in show in an hour and a half. It's going to be good.
Everybody join the coach. At 2 o'clock, I'll be on KMBR 680 with 49er pregame with John Lund and Adam Copeland. I'll join those guys for a segment after the game. And then, of course, I'll also go live after the ball game, and we'll do a little post-game show as well. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Hope everybody enjoyed the stream. The live stream sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get the first deposit matched up to $250. For the coach, I'm Krueger. Have a great rest of your day. Go Niners! Football returns tonight. Can't wait.
Let's go.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Can't